Tristan is an investment professional with offshore banking background, covering a full spectrum of asset classes, actually, from capital markets, real estate, and even alternative instruments such as cryptocurrency. So he's very well versed with comprehensive knowledge of different financing models. So I'm going to hand over to Tristan to tell us more about his current venture, which is K.L.I.N technology for waste management.
So, hey, Adrian. Tristan. Good to see you. Good to see you dressed as a Balinese. It's kind of funny. You wear it well.
Thank you. Yeah, I think you only used to see me out on the beach.
Yeah. I'll jump straight into it because I have a call at 1:15, so I can't really do overtime. But yeah, very happy to speak. Spread the word about what we do. And so the company is called K.L.I.N, K.L.I.N. I can actually share something that I've prepared. It's very simple, but sometimes I think images, work well. And so our company processes medical waste. It's not just any kind of waste. It's not the type of waste that you put in your own trash at home. It's infectious waste, and for that reason, it needs to be disposed of really properly. And there is actually an issue in Indonesia with this. There's no infrastructure at all that exists in Bali, especially. And so, with my partner Arnaud, who is a waste engineer, we decided to create this in 2013. We were really alarmed, by the amount of stuff that we could find on the beach. I'm not going to go into details, but if any of you, as a surfer, obviously it's probably a daily reality. But there's syringes, there's a lot of stuff that shouldn't be there, not just plastic. And with the pandemic, things have accelerated. And so if you see any of this, logos or symbols anywhere, that's what we are dealing with. So it's very specific, and that's how it looks like. So it's not very sexy. And yeah, in Indonesia, this type of waste needs to be destroyed. There's no recycling involved. We do not recycle anything. We actually incinerate everything at a temperature of 1,000 degrees in specific incinerators. So it's very obvious that medical waste, comes from hospitals, tattoo parlors, etc. But it doesn't always look like this. Actually, with the pandemic, medical waste has also taken, other forms such as this, which we're all now very familiar with. This is also potentially infectious. So the idea here is that it cannot be recycled. And also because it's made of plastic, it has to be discarded properly. We don't want to add more plastic to the current plastic problem that there is. So that's in a nutshell what the company does.
Okay, and yeah, we're very interested in how this is clean technology. Like how is it different to normal ways of disposing of this toxic waste?
Yeah, that's a good question. So as I mentioned earlier, we have a legal obligation to incinerate the toxic waste that we collect, that the hospitals give us. And but we had time. This company took 8 years to basically go online because of really lengthy regulatory process. It's fully licensed, and so the way it works is we developed a technology that allows us to use plastics, especially non-recyclable plastics that are petroleum products in essence, and use them as a source of fuel, as a combustible, basically. And so what we do is I have a picture. I want to show you how it looks like. That's a picture of the incinerator. So it's a 50-meter long, 80-ton heavy machine. And yeah, so what we do with the plastic is we clean it and we compress it in the bricks. So this is a typical brick. And what we do is we turn on the incinerator that normally works, with gas, LPG to be correct. Once it reaches 600 degrees, then we chuck in those bricks made of non-recyclable plastics, and then the temperature rises straight away to 800, 1,000 degrees. This is where we turn off the gas, and then we chuck in the waste. So in other words, we managed to find a solution where we can kill, two types of waste with one stone, let's put it this way. And so that's really the difference of what we're doing compared to, I would say, more traditional models. We haven't invented everything. We just, refined it and added this little plastic twist to it.
Right, very cool. And so this facility you just showed us, that's in Bali?
Yeah, that's in the north of Bali. It's in construction right now. It's in full swing, and it's gonna look, well, exactly like this by the end of February, and we should be starting operations in March. The burning test, the first test with the incinerator, will be done the first week of March. So I'm not gonna show you pictures of the construction site because right now it looks very much like a construction site. So I'd rather show you a sexy rendering.
Okay.
It's gonna be, yeah, very close to this.
Okay, I think, yeah, some people who are familiar with Bali might be asking about, you know, getting a permit to operate a facility like that, because, you know, Bali predominantly issues permits for more tourism and agriculture-based businesses. So was it easy to get a permit for this type of facility?
No, it wasn't easy at all, and it was very expensive too. We applied in 2013 to get that waste management license, that medical waste management license, and it was delivered to us in 2017. So it took a little while, and even then we still had another year and a half of multiple permits, because having the license is one thing, and this is hard enough, but you also need to go through a lot of environmental tests, and you need other sub-licenses to be able to transport the waste and other things. So I'm not going to get into details, but I think to this day we have about 31 licenses to be able to run this business. And yeah, so I'm very happy that this is done, because it's been quite a source of stress for the last 8 years for sure.
Yeah, I do remember talking to you about this in the early days, and always, you know, I'm really happy to see that it's getting off the ground now. So well done for your perseverance. So on that note, like, what were the, tell us about some of the obstacles along the way, apart from, you know, waiting for the permits.
There's been many. You know, when we started in 2013, I remember having an audience with the local government who were extremely supportive. They obviously loved the idea, and we were promised many things, but the reality of this was a little bit more complicated, because there's obviously cultural differences in the way, you know, we approach the project. We found out that you know, showing a positive outcome wasn't enough. We also needed to adapt to all the, you know, local cultural customs, the way of doing things, the local administration, and I think overall it was really for us a test of patience. So and that's really an advice I can give to any entrepreneur here is we need to adapt, not the other way around. It's an illusion to think that because you come with a good project on paper, you know, it's just going to happen. It requires patience, and it requires to nurture the connections that we build here with local people, with the government. So once, you know, we understood this, things accelerated. Once, you know, people started to trust us, to understand that it was a project we were carrying really in our heart, then, you know, doors started to open, introductions were made, and things started to flow. So I think really, you know, it's adapting to that mindset that was the biggest challenge, but yeah, we're good now, so we're in a good spot.
Okay, great. So, you know, a project like this, the perseverance, the complexity, you need a good team. So can you, I've heard people mention Arno and yourself. Can you tell me about the co-founders and the team behind this project?
Yep. Let me just pull, I prepared something for this. Yeah, here. So you've got Arno. Arno is the original founding member, and he's the CEO. He's a waste management professional. He did 10 years with Bureau Veritas in France, which is an organization specialized in waste management audit. So he literally audited waste management factories for a living. He knows everything inside out. And on top of this, he's spent nearly 2 decades in Indonesia. So he has a very good knowledge of what's happening on the ground, on the field. And that was really precious to get where we are. And so yeah, Arno and I have been friends for a long time. And I remember very well, one day we were discussing about how much we love Bali, and he was like, you know what, we should do something about this to protect it and for our kids. And this is how, you know, the waste management idea came up with. And the other founding member is Alex, who is actually not in Bali right now. She's still in France. She's going to join soon. And she helped develop the financial model. what's interesting about her, what she brings to the team is that she worked for various NGOs in Indonesia, back when, back in, when was that? The Sumatra tsunami, there was a whole rebuilding effort led by United Nations. So she was there. This is actually where she met Arnaud as well. So they worked together on rebuilding over there. And she has a really good local experience on dealing with complicated logistics. So on the ground, we all experienced working here. We all experienced dealing with local problematics. So we should be well equipped. And what you don't see here is actually there's a team of 7 other people who are all Indonesian and without whom we couldn't do anything. They're on the ground. They are dealing with clients. They're dealing with logistics, with transport. So it's actually a fully Indonesian operation.
Very good. Wow. And the market that you're serving, or the geography, is it all of Bali?
Yeah, we're licensed to serve Bali and the whole eastern Nusa Tenggara. So basically all the islands that go all the way east. We can serve Lombok, Sumbawa, Sumba, Timor. I think the first year and a half, 2022, 2023, we're going to focus on Bali to make sure that we serve this market, to our best, because there's really a pressing need. And then we will definitely start going east, probably Lombok first and then Sumbawa.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. And in order to serve that whole geography, do you need to scale from your, current project site?
Yeah, that's already in the pipes. Actually, we haven't received the first incinerator. We will have it for Christmas, actually, but we're already planning on putting a second one and potentially expanding to neighboring islands because hauling waste across islands is expensive, but also it's regulated. So we want to make sure that we can serve the market by placing different factories at different points. But that's a discussion I think in the next couple of years probably. So we will expand. That's for sure.
Okay, amazing. And have you heard of talk of medical tourism being promoted, in Bali and also the Eastern Islands from Bali? And have you factored that into your forecast?
Yeah, we heard about this. Actually, I think the government started making a few moves 2 or 3 years ago, or maybe even 4 years ago, because they wanted a slice of the cake of what's happening in Thailand specifically. So I think it was very much around cosmetic surgery, and they even relaxed the regulations around who could practice this type of medical operations. I'm not sure there is significant volumes yet. However, there's already a lot of things that can be served in not just hospitals. That vets, dentists, tattoo parlors, even in the grand scheme of things. I'm not even talking about face masks because that's huge. But even cigarette butts are actually technically considered toxic waste. So technically we're supposed to also collect and destroy them. But yeah, realistically, I think even without the expansion of medical tourism, there's already a lot to do here. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I know because I can't remember if I told you I helped to fund and start up a waste management facility down the road here at Peronan. And we try to separate the organics and turn the organics into compost, the non-organics to recycle, but we still get a lot of residual material that a lot of which is toxic. So if that's happening at one site, all the waste management facilities around Bali have that percentage of toxic waste that needs to go somewhere. And right now it's not managed very well.
But you can send it to us starting next year. Just store it. I think you can store it for up to 90 days. So should be all right.
Okay, awesome. We have a question from Aurea Jamar. Would you like to unmute and ask your question about masks from hotels?
Hi. Yes. Sorry. I was just wondering how it worked. Maybe I missed part because I'm kind of switching between the 2 rooms. And I'm sorry if I'm asking something redundant. But I was just wondering, as a hotel, how could we participate in this process of guests coming and we have a lot of use masks and so on. So how can we make sure they're recycled properly?
Thank you. That's a great question, actually. Well, we could get in touch and give you guys some specific beans to dispose of the masks, and whenever they're full, we can collect them basically. So we can get in touch after this call, and we're happy to give you some of the specific containers so that everything can be disposed of properly. And of course, we'll give you a couple of stickers if you want to put in your hotel to say that you're responsible and you care about this, that it doesn't end up in a river or on a beach. So that's, yeah, thank you. That's great.
Thank you so much.
Okay, good. And Tristan, this obviously, I guess one of the challenges to get this off the ground was the funding. And I remember you told me that you're in a good position that it's fully funded. Can you talk about the funding side of things? Was it easy to raise the funding? Did it come, what sources did it come from? Was it a private equity? Did you manage to access some grant funding, since this is something good for the environment? Like, what was the financing blend for you?
It wasn't easy at all. Actually, it was funny to join the conversation with the Bali Investment Club just before I came up, because whenever I sent a pitch deck or got in touch with a potential investor, prospective investor, the answer was always the same. It's like, wow, this is amazing. We love it. That's great. Let's talk about this. And then nothing. And I think the difficulty was mainly because in this type of operations, all the capital needs to be injected upfront, because you have such a huge requirement to build the facilities. We're talking here about a $5 million facility. So, there's no opportunity for an investor, to test the water by injecting a bit of money first, see if this works, if there's traction, and then add some more and scale. It doesn't work like that. You basically need to put it all up front and then see if it works. So this was already a big obstacle, but also the other issue is that in this market, and this time I'm talking Bali, Indonesia, there's no other players, so there's absolutely no data available to basically benchmark, the nature of the investment and see, and assess the risk. So for an investor, that looks like a gamble. So if you had this, and the first thing I said, gambling $5 million is not exactly what investors like to do, generally speaking. And then finally, and this is more, on a macro side, generally speaking, investing in Indonesia, there's very little track record on successful exits, for whether it's for private equity or for just, I would say everyday ventures. We were starting to see a little bit of action on the tech front, but this is really brick and mortar. And this is not just brick and mortar. This is like old school brick and mortar. It's completely liquid. Once you bolt an incinerator in the ground, that's 80 tons. This thing is there for 30 years. You're not moving it. You know what I mean? You're not taking it anywhere. It's not like a line of code that you can duplicate, scale and put into new apps or scale to new tech. It doesn't work like that. So to answer your question in a nutshell, it was very complicated, and it took the knowledge of a local group that understands Indonesia, and that's a big lender here. It's one of the biggest lenders in Indonesia to go through basically a whole model, and it took us time to establish ties, to gain trust. Once again, the same story, basically building the relationship with them. And ultimately, I think they really liked what they saw, and they liked the idea of also facilitating a green project, something that had environmental impact and social impact as well. And this is how we came to a deal. That was not so long ago. We started talking to them about 4 months ago, and we inked it about 6 weeks ago. And the funding is actually coming as we speak. So
amazing.
So yeah, that's a huge relief.
Congratulations on that, and yeah, it's great news for K.L.I.N and great news for Bali that this is going ahead. Yeah, right. It's coming from a software background, it's not like a software venture where you can fail fast, and you can just seed a little bit of capital to see what the prototype looks like. Your project is very different. It's all in. It's all or nothing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an adventure. I'll be honest with you, when this started, when we talk about this, the first time I was like, okay, let's do it. Sounds fun. And we'll put a little bit of money and see what happens. And 8 years later, and I think most of our savings, the 3 of us, invested in this. We're very, very happy that this this starts, and that we can finally, you know, start monetizing the initial intention. So yeah.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, we have a question from Daya. Daya, can you unmute to ask your question?
Yes, now I can unmute myself. Thank you so much for doing this, Tristan and the team, because really Indonesia need this. And as Indonesian, I'm really grateful for this. But yeah, I would like to ask whether, because as we probably know, there are so many initiation for the plastic waste, and but it feels like everyone trying to do their best. So it's kind of like small initiation. And I'm thinking whether, because I think mostly the problem is by the end of product. So because we cannot really, yeah, as Adrian also mentioned before, there's so many residual plastic waste afterwards. So that's also one of the biggest problem. So I'm thinking like whether is there, like if KLIN can make the technology like that and the facility, is there any possibility that other waste initiation can use the technology? That's the first question. And the second question is, yeah, as I mentioned before, there's so many initiation that trying to independently reduce the plastic waste problem. But is there any possible that we could make it as one, you know, so the impact can be bigger? Just a thought. Thank you.
Thanks, Dia. I think, you know, on paper it would be possible, but as usual, and I think everybody who has ventured into trying to create some form of recycling or some form of economic value out of, you know, reusing plastic, it, you know, always faces the same issue in the end. It has to make economic sense, right? So for us, using plastic makes economic sense because it actually helps us to save about 15% on costs versus using LPG alone for our waste incinerators. And, you know, with the huge bonus of also destroying, well, you know, plastic. But I think for other models, we thought about a lot of exotic stuff. For example, early in the days, I was thinking, hey, you know, this incinerator, our incinerators make a ton of heat. Maybe we could turn that heat into, you know, energy, into electricity, and maybe power Bitcoin miners, you know, or, you know, and actually at scale, this is possible. And I know I've run the whole numbers and models, so it's possible. It's quite exciting, actually. But to come back to your question, I think the answer to this is, does it make economic sense? And what's challenging with end of life plastics is that they have no value at all. They're just waste. And also they're not great to be reused as, you know, mix for construction materials. We looked into that as well. Like, hey, we build houses out of this, or, you know, if they are, it comes at the cost of a transformation with other materials that outweighs the economic benefits. So, you know, we hit the same problem. It makes no economic sense. I think in the end, you said it yourself, you know, when it all comes down to initiation and reducing, well, the use of plastic to limit, you know, the output of waste in the end. And that's really the answer, I think. That's my take on it. It's very subjective, obviously, and it's only my 2 cents based on our own research and experience the last few years. But yeah, it would be great if we could reuse that. It's just, I think, complicated for now.
Yeah. Tristan, again, hats off on undertaking this complex project. Any words of advice or inspiration for other entrepreneurs, you know, outside of software, or maybe software, that's looking at something that's really complex, that you know, is as challenging as yours, where they really have to go all in? Like, any words of advice or inspiration for those?
Yeah, I think it has to do with mental game a lot. So be patient, make sure you have the funds, you know, make sure you have the runway, because it's either it's one of those that's gonna make you give up. So be patient and have the funds. That's what I would say, and everything else, you know, will come together, hopefully. So that's my only piece of advice.
Yeah, great. That's sensible. Yeah. And is there anything you'd like to promote or encourage the audience to do more of?
Yeah, if you walk on the beach, why don't you pick up, you know, a couple of pieces of trash when you see them, and, you know, put them on the, you know, on the beans that are a bit further up the beach. If everybody could do that, it actually makes a huge difference. But that's the only thing.
Right, amazing. Right, let me check if there are any more questions for Tristan. Okay, there's a question from Lou. Lou, can you comment on what you just posted? And then that might be the last question. Lou? Yep.
Sure. No, I just, I have a small boutique hotel and we have to go through the process of applying for the QR code. So when guests arrive, you know, you can scan your location. But my manager was telling me that we had to, in that process, report our waste management program and to report what we're doing with all of our waste. Our organic waste is being separated, and it sort of threw me on. I love it. I'm a waste management person from way back. But I thought it was very interesting. Have you heard of that? Has anyone else heard of that? Because I thought that was a really interesting approach.
Interesting.
To encourage hotels to do it.
Yeah, I haven't heard of it. I know there's, and yeah, no, but also I must say that this is very likely for a different type of waste, probably like domestic waste. But I've heard that, you know, they are trying to improve, you know, the management at a large scale in Suwon. So it might be for this. They might be, I don't know, managing this differently. But I haven't specifically heard of this obligation yet.
Yeah, well, we have to have built a separate area for hazardous waste, and they've given us a list of what the hazardous waste is. But then what happens, that just gets all at the moment thrown into the Banjar's truck when it comes to collect it. So it's, you know, step. So that I love your, and of course it starts from, you know, the ground up. It's getting people to separate it at that first point and then pass it on to people like yourself. So that's great.
Amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, it's true what you say, Jinjulu. It definitely has to be separated. It cannot be mixed. And this is where we come in. Where we transport it, even the Banjars can actually not transport this, legally speaking. So there's a specific license for that. But yeah, we can get in touch if you guys need specific containers or bins. We're happy to provide those for you. And this way you can be fully compliant with any obligation that you may have. But I believe that for hotels, you know, this shouldn't be a huge issue. There's not big volumes, right?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
No, it's not big volumes, but that's also part of the problem. You know, it's the odd hazardous waste gets chucked in and then contaminates the products. So, yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, so I'm just going to put the link to your website. I think I've got it here. It's KLIN-Indonesia, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. .com. You can type it in.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Awesome. Tristan, amazing. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for doing this for the environment and for Bali. I think everyone really appreciates that. So yeah, if there's nothing else, we'll let you go to your next important meeting, and hopefully we can catch up for a board meeting soon on the beach.
Thanks, Adrian.
All right. Thanks, Tristan.
Have a good one. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Okay.